It's Wednesday, the 8th of April, 2026. Welcome to the Fast 5 Business News by Fear and Greed, where we give you the top 5 business stories you need to know in just 5 minutes. I'm Michael Thompson, and good morning, Sean Aylmer.
Good morning, Michael.
Sean, 5 stories in 5 minutes. Let's go with story number 1. The arrest and charging of former soldier and Victoria Cross recipient Ben Roberts-Smith on war crimes offences after allegations that he had murdered unarmed Afghan civilians and prisoners has split politicians across the divide and has really set the scene for what is the most significant war crimes prosecution in Australian history. Roberts-Smith was charged late yesterday afternoon with 5 counts of murder, following a joint investigation between the Office of the Special Investigator and the Australian Federal Police. The offence of war crimes, murder, carries a maximum penalty of life imprisonment. The arrest of the highly decorated former Special Forces soldier comes after a 5-year investigation secured the cooperation of SAS eyewitnesses, according to Nine Media.
They're expected to testify that they saw Roberts-Smith executing or directing junior soldiers to execute defenceless detainees during his time in Afghanistan between 2006 and 2012. When Roberts-Smith was allegedly involved in the 2012 executions, he was the most decorated Commonwealth soldier to serve in Afghanistan.
Now, Ben Roberts-Smith has already unsuccessfully contested claims that he committed war crimes, including murders, in a defamation case that he fought all the way to the High Court. The High Court last September refused him leave to appeal a full federal court decision that in turn backed the 2023 judgment of federal court judge Anthony Basanko that The Age and Sydney Morning Herald had proved a number of the same allegations true to the civil standard. The standard of proof will be much higher in the new case than in the civil case, and it is very important to note that we haven't heard from Ben Roberts-Smith yet.
That's right. The arrest yesterday drew a stern no comment from the Prime Minister. The opposition leader Angus Taylor said he hoped it would not detract from the efforts of the armed forces. Roberts-Smith has attracted the support of many high-profile Australians, including billionaire Kerry Stokes and Australian War Memorial Chairman Brendan Nelson. Yesterday, One Nation leader Pauline Hanson said she remained steadfast in her support of Roberts-Smith. Former Prime Minister Tony Abbott said it was wrong to judge the actions of men in mortal combat by the standards of ordinary civilian life. No doubt we have never had a trial for war crimes of such a decorated soldier. It will set a precedent for decades to come.
Indeed it will. Okay, story number 2, Sean. The ASX yesterday closed up 1.7%, hitting a 4-week high. Tech stocks and mining stocks, they both found plenty of friends, even though US President Donald Trump's deadline for the reopening of the Strait of Hormuz is coming up later today. The S&P ASX 200 closed up 149 points to 8,728 points. At one stage, it was up 2%. All the big banks did well. Commonwealth Bank, NAB, Westpac jumping around 2.5%. BHP was up more than 3%. BlueScope Steel up almost 4%. It was a sea of green.
So was oil. So why are shares going up? Who knows? Basically, it's funny. The trading comes as a deadline for the reopening of the Strait of Hormuz closes in. Trump's warned he's going to bomb civilian infrastructure, but investors just don't believe him.
Yeah.
If they thought he was going to start bombing, the market would have taken a dive yesterday. We'll see what happens in the next couple of hours.
Indeed. Story number 3, Sean. Prime Minister Anthony Albanese says the government will take every action to shield Australians from oil-driven inflation shocks, including high-level talks with Singapore on securing trade in petrol, diesel and LNG. Meanwhile, federal ministers insist that rationing isn't being considered, while emphasising that the focus is keeping supply flowing.
Yeah, sure. Anyway, we've spoken plenty about the inflationary impact of fuel prices. There's also this national security flavour now when leaders start talking about resilience and independence in energy supply chains. They're basically saying that the just-in-time model doesn't hold up so well. As part of the government's efforts to shore up supply, Albanese is heading to Singapore tomorrow to meet his counterpart Lawrence Wong. There was some good news yesterday. Taiwan, our 4th largest supplier of fuel, particularly diesel, promised to keep supply flowing.
Story number 4, Sean. Guzman Y Gomez has delivered a strong third quarter sales update with network sales up nearly 20% and Australian comparable sales growth accelerating 7%. Investors seem to love it yesterday. The shares closed up nearly 20%. Comparable growth at 6.6% was solid, yet it is well down on the 11% plus pace from a year ago. So it seems that the growth is continuing, but it seems to be normalizing, which isn't unusual for a fast-scaling brand, especially in a tight consumer environment.
The company pointed to delivery as a key driver of those figures. A new partnership with Uber Eats seems to be working. Also, transaction growth is outpacing sales growth. So in plain English, more people are visiting. Average spend per visit is lower, which kind of fits the cost of living narrative. Customers still want the treat. They might be trading down to cheaper items.
Finally, story number 5, Sean, the one I've been waiting for. The Artemis II astronauts, having travelled further into space than any human before them, have gone around the moon. They are heading now back to Earth. The 4 astronauts, 3 Americans, 1 Canadian, have now seen the far side of the moon and beaten the previous record of distance from Earth that was set by the Apollo 13 mission back in 1970.
Artemis II's lunar orbit is the highlight of the nearly 10-day test flight, which will end with a splashdown in the Pacific on April 11. All things going okay. Venturing as close as 6,545 kilometres to the moon, the astronauts zipped through a list of more than 24 targets using powerful cameras to zoom in on impact craters and other intriguing lunar figures. They were at one point more than 406,000 kilometres from Earth, the furthest man has ever been. Can't wait to see the NASA images when they release them.
Yeah, pretty extraordinary. All right, there we go. The top 5 business stories in 5 minutes. Thank you, Sean.
Thank you, Michael.
It is Wednesday, the 8th of April, 2026. Remember to hit follow on the podcast. And if 5 minutes isn't enough, you can find our longer daily show called Fear and Greed, wherever you listen to podcasts. I'm Michael Thompson, and that was the Fast 5 Business News by Fear and Greed. Have a great day.